All right. I forgot my glasses. So I got everything I should need on the slide. So hopefully I don't need them. Nadine, thank you for joining. Thank you for calling out Debbie Lee. Um, I adjusted the camera a little bit last week. I knew it was kind of hard to see what was on the slides. So we're going to see how this week goes. We're coming a little bit early this week. That's because there's a lot on the plate for the time frame that we usually spend on Thursday night. There's a presidential debate tonight. There's also a Giants versus Eagles game tonight. So there's a lot going on. So we kind of wanted to kind of get this out of the way for those who wanted to watch the debate and stuff, and so forth and so on. So we'll take it for what it is. I know Debbie, she's probably not going to make it on at this time due to time difference from where she's at and stuff. This may be way too early for her. So we're just going to get through this. Our text verse for this week, from chaos to order, we're going to be going over day 4 and 5 of Genesis. Our text verse comes from Job 9, 8 through 10. And it says, He alone spreads out the heavens and treads on the waves of the sea. He made the bear, Orion, and the Pleiades, and the chambers of the south. He does great things past finding out, yes, wonders without number. What I thought was cool was even way back in Genesis, God already named some things that we still have today. So the naming came from God. And I thought that was pretty cool because God sets his name and dominion over all his creation. And it takes years and years and years and years for scientists to still not quite get it. All right, so today's verse, we're going to be going over verses 14 through 23. We got a lot to go over. We're going to jam it all in. And we're going to break them down to segments. So we'll have the 4th day, and then we'll have the 5th day. So it says, Then God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens, to give light on the earth. And it was so. Then God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the 4th day. The Lord placed these objects, and they're placed up for signs, seasons, days, and years. We've seen that they're for light and for the day and the night, but it really pinpoints for the signs, for the seasons, days, and years. Things whirl around us with such precision that the Mayans were able to calculate out a calendar so exactly it loses only one day in every 6,000 years. That amazes me because with all the technology that we have today, we still have to add an extra day every 4 years. How could somebody get it down packed to where you only had to add one day in every 6,000 years? But we, with all this technology, seem to not be able to get it. But that's science. So since the beginning, man has used God's provision, his signs for the seasons, days, and years, as a mark to measure time as well as distance. A lot of people can look at the sun and know what direction to go. A lot of people can use that for time and direction all the time. That kind of didn't make sense. But God set them in the firmaments of the heavens. We've seen that. So God knew exactly how far to set the sun from the earth, so it wouldn't cause no trouble, but it would be perfect for us. intricate balance of our ecosystems argues strongly for the existence of a creator. This can't happen by accident. There's no possible way that everything that fits in perfectly without, being a scientist and trying to go with these other theories just blows my mind, because it's so on point how everything works together that it has to have a creator. This no way in the world could happen by accident, because we live in a very complex world. But the only problem here is day 4 confuses many. Because remember, a couple weeks ago, we talked about day 1, where God made light. And he made that in the expanse of the sky. Well, here in the expanse of the sky. But before, he created light and darkness. So what was that light and darkness? We actually went over that in day 1. And we went over that, comparing it with this verse right here in Revelation 22:5. It says this: there shall be no night there. They need no lamp nor light of the sun, for the Lord God gives them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. This is after everything's said and done, the new earth and the new heavens. This is what's being said. We will not have a need for the sun or the moon or the stars. And that's the way it was set up previously. But here, God takes these and hands over responsibility to these suns, moons, stars to provide light on the earth and to serve as signs for seasons, for days, and for years. So on the 4th day, we got this. God made the sun and the moon. I want you to think about this. Because in the Bible it says Jesus is the light of the world in John 8:12. He also tells us that he said that we are also to be lights in Matthew 5:14. So if he is the greater light, the sun, and we are the lesser light, the moon, we are to be reflecting his light in our dark world. But let's get it like this. This makes me think of an eclipse. To whatever extent the world gets between the sun and the moon is the extent to which the light of the sun upon the moon is diminished. And that's the same thing with us as Christians. Jesus is the sun. We are the moon. And whatever degree that we allow the world to come between us and the sun, his light in our lives will fade. So I want to ask you guys a question before we go into the next chapter. If you were to chart your own life, would you be a full moon, a 3/4 moon, half moon, quarter moon, or an eclipse moon? Where would you stand if you looked at your life right now? Because it all depends on how much of the world that you're letting in between you and Jesus. It's that simple. And a lot of us may say, okay, I'll go 50-50. We're half moon. But if you got to go half moon, 50-50, then I think you're probably 3/4 moon. Quarter moon. Sorry, I went the wrong way. Because so many of us will not openly admit how backslidden that we can be at a lot of times. And there's so many times that we slip off the path so far for such a long period of time before we even realize it. And it's because that we're not always being in his word. We're not always studying. We're not always, I don't even know the word. We're not always reaping or sowing anything to reap. Let's just put it that way. So we'll move on. Genesis 20:23 says, Then God said, Let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures, and let the birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens. So God created the great sea creatures and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abounded, according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. So the evening and the morning were the fifth day. Now this is going to get interesting, because as a side note, the King James Version translates this verse of verse 20 this way. And God said, Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. This right here, bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth. Where is it coming from? The waters. They translated it a little confusing. And if you look at different modern translations, they cleared this up by putting it like this. Then God said, Let the waters abound with an abundance of creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens. It kind of cleared up any sense that the waters was a source of life for everything. And it makes clear that God is the source of life. And the water is just a medium for which he created the sea life. The birds of the air were created by the same great creator, and their domain is the sky above us. So this seems obvious, but it's important to separate these so that people can't jump to conclusions that the waters are the source of life. For all we know, Darwin, who was raised as a Christian and probably read out of the New King James Version, especially that's the only Bible that's really widely spread around that time. And this verse here could have come to be his same conclusion as he developed a notion about the origin of species. So if we really think about it, doesn't the fossil record show these creatures slowly evolved into existence instead of suddenly appearing that way? Most people are unaware that Darwin's strongest opponents were not clergymen, but fossil experts. Darwin admitted that the state of the fossil evidence was the most obvious and gravest objection which can be urged against his theory. And because of the fossil evidence, all the most eminent paleontologists and all our greatest geologists have unanimously, often vehemently maintained that the species do not change. The fossil record is recorded by two great principles. First, stasis, which means most species are unchanged in all their documented history. The way they look when they first appear in the fossil record is the way they look at when last appearing in the fossil record. They have not changed. Second, suddenly appearance, which means in any local area, a species does not arise gradually, but appears all at once and fully formed. So I want to read something that Philip Johnson once said. Philip Johnson says, if evolution means the gradual change of one kind of organism into another kind, the outstanding characteristic of the fossil record is the absence of evidence for evolution. And then he goes on and he talks about evolutionist Niall Eldredge, who wrote this. We paleontologists, I don't know that word, have said that the history of life in the fossil record supports the story of gradual evolution, all the while knowing that it does not. So on this day, God created the immense and most debated, I think it's called the Leviathan, which is mentioned in the book of Job. And the description takes up the whole chapter, along with another beast that we'll talk about tomorrow, which was the behemoth. And I just want to kind of go over this verse with you. I don't have it on the screen. So it says, can you fill his skin with harpoons or his head with fishing spears? Lay your hand on him. Remember the battle. Never do it again. Indeed, any hope of overcoming him is false. Shall no one be overwhelmed at the sight of him? Who can open the doors of his face with his trembled teeth all around? His rows of scales are his pride, shut up tightly as with a seal. One is so near another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick together and cannot be parted. His sneezes flash forth light, and his eyes are like eyelids of the morning. Out of the mouth go burning lights. Sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke goes out of his nostrils as from boiling pot and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame goes out of his mouth. Though the sword reaches him, it cannot avail, nor does spear, dart, or javelin. He regards iron as straw and bronze as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Slingstones become like stubble to him. Darts are regarded as straw. He laughs at the threat of javelins. His undersides are like sharp potsherds. He spreads pointed marks in the mire. He makes the deep boil like a pot. He makes the sea like a pot of ointment. He leaves a shining wake behind him. One would think the deep had white hair. On earth there is nothing like him, which is made without fear. Yeah. There for a second I thought maybe I cited the wrong one. But we didn't cite the whole description here. But it was something that God spoke to Job about as if he was already well familiar with it. Modern scholars try to claim this was probably a crocodile, but describing a crocodile like this would be like giving a description of a 747 to a kid's toy kite. This was undoubtedly some type of dinosaur that Job had seen with his own eyes. The passage details a death blow to theistic evolution. The idea that God started the process and then let the species evolve one into another. The language in the Hebrew is pretty straightforward. After their kind, after his kind, after its kind. In other words, there would be no changes, or there could be changes within a species, but not changes from one species to another. Scientists have been able to breed fruit flies into the millions of generations. And if we look at it, they're still fruit flies. Not one of them became a honeybee. Matthew Henry says this about the fifth day. Yep. Each day hitherto has produced every noble and excellent beings, which we can never sufficiently admire. But we do not read of the creation of any living creature till the fifth day, of which these verses give us an account. The work of creation not only proceeded gradually from one thing to another, but rose and advanced gradually from which was less excellent to which was more so, teaching us to press towards perfection and endeavor that our last works may be our best works. And that's so true. Whenever we start to do something, we're never really that good at it until we continue to keep doing it, and then we get better. So this is kind of really true. And he's equating that each day's increase, notably of the creation, with a general guideline for us to live our lives. We should endeavor to increase the quality of our works as we develop in life so that we accomplish progressively better. Kind of like imaging God's handiwork in creation. So in a similar manner, our lives as Christians should develop as well. Spending the rest of our lives at the marginal level of Christianity maturity, we should be actively reading our Bibles, learning what God has given us in creation, and working out the fruits of our salvation and the help of others through discipline and ministry. So, on the first day, God made light. On the second day, the atmosphere. On the third day, life. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And he rose on the third day. And that was from last week. But that's all I got. I thought I closed this off a little something different. I left one slide on there from last week. But seriously, we need to continue to grow as a Christian. Just because we're saved doesn't mean the process is over. The process has just began. We got a long road ahead of us. And it takes the Bible, the Word of God, to really get us through that, to really strengthen us, to give us the knowledge that we need. And if we're not picking this up on a regular basis, then we're cutting our own selves short. And just like on day 4, how far are we letting this world in between us and Jesus? Really think about it. Because a lot of times we pass up the little things like, well, that's not too bad. Is it? What does the Bible say about it? And that's where we need to be. And sometimes it hurts to understand the truth. It hurts to understand I've messed up when we think that we're on the right path. And we have to now back up, change a few things, and continue our walk. And that's what the Bible's all about. It's about influencing you to do better, to encourage you to keep striving, to knowledge that you need to make it through this Christian life. And without it, we're shooting blanks. We're shooting for any target that moves. And we have no idea exactly where we're going. And we think we're on the right path and we're doing a good job because we're not doing this or we're not doing that. But what if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing? And so as we go through the book of Genesis, we're going to really start revealing some things. Now, I wanted to kind of bring in the first part of day 6 with the animals, but there's so much to talk about on that aspect. So that'll be one next week, and then we'll have the creation of man the following week. And then from there, the stories just take off. We'll be over with creation, and the stories just take off. And it's going to be a long, bumpy ride. And it's going to hit some areas in our lives that we don't like. And we're going to see it through the characters of the Bible. And we're going to see what God's revealing behind the stories. And it's going to be an exciting ride. I'm excited to teach you guys this stuff. But we have to check ourselves. And through creation, think about it. When you are saved again and reborn, you're a new creation. And through creation, we see these little bumps. We should be checking ourselves and make sure that as recreation and reborn Christians, that we are not overstepping some things just to try to get past it. God's got you in a moment. Figure out why. And that's all I got for you guys this week. Until next week, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share it with friends and family, and always submit to the Word of God. Thank you guys. God bless.